conversation on our show the last few days, ever since the Eastern Conference Finals came to an end, about the future in New York, and we all sat here and said, at this point, it doesn't seem like Tom Thibodeau is going anywhere and should go anywhere. And after 5 seasons as Knicks head coach, first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years, bye. Along with Michelle Swell and Chris Canty, Evan Cohen with you. Good morning, everybody.
Cold world, no blanket. Did not see this one coming.
Neither did I.
Did not see this one coming. I thought Tibbs did a nice enough job of being able to guide this team on a deep playoff run, but apparently the powers that be in the front office and ownership for the New York Knicks decided it was time to go in a different direction.
Yeah, even though we had discussed this prior to their exit in the Eastern Conference Finals, after their exit in the Eastern Conference Final and their season concluded, it still felt like a shock. Because as we heard in the open there, all of us thought that he had done enough guiding this team to a place that they haven't been in a quarter century and getting public support from the star player on the team to return back and see what he could do. But I guess the Knicks feel that sense of urgency, and you can't fire the players oftentimes. So the next best thing is to try and get a new voice in there and fire the coach.
So let's go back in time, catch up to get to present tense, and then we go to future. So back in time. You heard what I had to say, which is I did not believe that Tom Thibodeau was the kind of coach to get the Knicks to a championship. Okay, that was said. CC all throughout the year said he's got to do something. He's got to do something. He's got to do something. There has to be proof of concept. He has to get them further and deeper into the season, into the playoffs, than he did a year ago, right? You were on the Tom Thibodeau hot seat. He did enough. While none of us crowned him as coach of the year for the Eastern Conference Finals, he did enough in getting them there where you said, all right, cool, I'll run it back. Not I'm signing him to a 10-year extension. Not he's Steve Kerr, Ty Lue, and Eric Spoelstra combined. He's good enough for me to be proven wrong for another year, okay? That's where we were, right? Smalls, you were supportive of him. Hey, he's, come on, what is it? It's first in 25 years. Like, he's in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's where we as a show were, which gets us to yesterday. Present tense, kind of. When Shams Charania went on the Pat McAfee show and explained how the Knicks came to this decision to fire Tom Thibodeau.
As soon as the Knicks season ended, they started meetings internally, and James Dolan, the Knicks owner, Leon Rose, their president, they believed the best path for this team to take the next step as an organization, win a championship, is that they need a new voice. And so Leon Rose and James Dolan came to the decision this morning that they were going to part ways with Tom Thibodeau. He is fired as their head coach. You think about what they've done as an organization, like to lose in the conference finals, that's not a bad feat. This is a team that's gone from really out of much contention at all. Then when Tom Thibodeau comes in, they become respectable again. 4 or 5 seasons in the playoffs. They've had back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time since the 1990s. I mean, I think everyone around the league is stunned. I mean, my phone is blowing up. A bunch of teams are reaching out right now. Absolutely shocked, but they've been having meetings for the last 24 hours, and this is the decision they came with.
Why do you believe that Tom Thibodeau is not the head coach of the Knicks, guys?
Well, I think it starts with blowing Game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals. That was an expensive proposition for Tibbs. It ended up wiping away all of the goodwill that the organization had built up in him after beating the reigning defending champion Boston Celtics, right? They constructed a roster that they thought was good enough to contend for a championship, primarily because they thought they matched up well against the Boston Celtics, and that ended up being proven right. They were down by double digits in each of the first 5 games of that series. And yet somehow, some way, we're always firmly in control of it. So I think Tom Thibodeau did a masterful job at being able to navigate that. But for as good a job as he did in that series in totality, I thought that what he showed in Game 1 on your home court, blowing a 17-point lead with less than 5 minutes to go, ended up setting the tone for the Eastern Conference Finals. And it ended up opening the door that we all thought was closed in terms of them being able to move on from him.
Yeah, and even though Indiana has shown themselves to be a formidable team, I think that opponent hurts them as well. It's not as if this was the defending champion Boston Celtics. Not that that would be palatable either, but I think that's a little bit easier to rationalize. When you push all your chips in and make these big moves to construct a roster, as you said, Cece, that they thought could compete for a championship, and then so many things fall your way this postseason, and you get to this place where you're healthy, you get to the Eastern Conference Finals and you're healthy, and a team like Indiana comes in and beats you, and that's no shade towards them. But I'm sure if you're the Knicks and you're a decision maker, you're thinking, we built a team that should have been able to beat Indiana and get to the finals, and that didn't happen. And they're looking at the way this team is constructed, they're feeling that sense of urgency, and they thought a new voice was needed.
Yeah, I think in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think there's about 5 or 6 coaches that if they were coaching the Knicks instead of Tom Thibodeau, would have done a better job against Indiana with his roster than he did. I don't think any of those coaches are gettable right now for the New York Knicks, which is interesting, right? I think that Steve Kerr, Ty Lue, Eric Spoelstra, Rick Carlisle, I think they would have done a better job coaching the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals and altering things, changing things, throwing curveballs than Tom Thibodeau did. I don't believe they're getting any of those guys, right? And we're going to get to what's next, right? But this is where I get confused. And I'm curious as to where you guys go with this. Because when we ask, was this the right decision? People, and I brought it up, and it's in our notes, etc. People say, well, this is the first time the Knicks went to the conference finals in 25 years. Why does Leon Rose care about that? Why does Worldwide West care about that? Those are the people that run the Knicks. They've been there with Tom Thibodeau for 5 years. I don't care what happened 10 years ago. That's laundry. It doesn't matter to me what David Fizdale did, what Derek Fisher did, what Kurt Rambis there for a minute? Whoever. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what Jeff Hornacek did. What matters to me is this is my team for the last 5 years. And I believe that we've gotten better, but maybe not enough to get over the hump. So are they judging, like, in terms of, is this the right decision? Should we be looking at a 25-year window or a 5-year window relative to Tom Thibodeau getting fired?
Well, the history matters in terms of the pattern, the missteps that the franchise has made when they've been on the path to sustained success. James Dolan talked about it a little bit on the Roommates podcast with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart about how the organization has always gone out and chased after the sparkly object. Sometimes a coach, most of the times a player, and it never really worked out, right? Trading for Carmelo Anthony during the season rather than waiting to the offseason and being able to keep more of the supporting cast around him was a misstep by the franchise. But Mel wanted to come here as soon as possible, and the ownership was more than willing to oblige. That ended up undermining whatever the Knicks could have been under Mike Woodson. So, I mean, the history of it matters in terms,
and he was good, Mike
terms of the mistakes that the franchise has made and trying not to repeat them. So the organization and ownership have left little breadcrumbs in terms of preaching continuity. But if they're going to make this move right after their season ends, then to me it's doubling down on the core of players that you already have and bringing in somebody that the front office and ownership believes can maximize what those guys bring to the table, right? Because we can't ignore the praise that Jalen Brunson gave Tom Thibodeau after the conclusion of the Eastern Conference Finals, but we also can't ignore the criticism that Mikal Bridges gave Tom Thibodeau during the regular season when he said they playing too many damn minutes. I looked this up this morning, I couldn't believe it. The Knicks starting 5 played 940 minutes together during the regular season. Twice as much as any other lineup in the Eastern Conference.
Twice as much.
Twice as much as any other lineup in the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
But they did get to the Eastern Conference Finals that way.
They did.
But it got them fired that way.
And it also looked like they ran out of gas in the Eastern Conference Finals against a team that, quote unquote, weaponizes cardio.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. And everything you're saying. So was it the right decision?
It's hard for me to sit here today and say it was the right decision. I understand the decision.
Yeah.
It feels like the front office trying to validate the decisions that they made last offseason in trading all those draft picks for Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. Because this is going to be an expensive summer for the New York Knicks. Like, I know how you feel about it. I know how others that cover the Knicks feel about the Mikal Bridges contract extension. I'm telling y'all, that deal going to happen. That's going to happen. He's going to get his 4 years, $156 million. Also got to keep in mind, Karl Anthony Towns, second team All-NBA, he's contract extension eligible. Even if you don't give him a new deal, though, that's 3 years, $161 million left on that contract. In a couple more years, Jalen Brunson's going to be eligible for an extension. That's paying him $70 million a year. So, like, these are the bills that are going to come due for this New York Knicks roster. And so, in a vacuum, I don't feel great about the organization making this type of decision, but when you ratchet up the stakes, i.e. consider the money that they're going to have to commit to this roster and potential luxury tax, I can understand why they would have a critical eye toward the job that Tibbs did. And as you mentioned, Smalls, it's easier to replace a head coach than it is to replace players on the roster, especially when you don't have a hell of a lot of draft capital.
Smalls, was this the right decision?
On one hand, I commend the Knicks for making this move because they're looking at this team and they want to maximize the group that they have. And they say, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, even though it's the first time it's happened in a quarter century, is not good enough. And I appreciate that. I appreciate an organization putting their foot down and saying, we are not going to settle for anything less than hanging a banner. And even if it requires us making a very tough decision, we're going to do that. But on the other side, I wonder if this is incredibly reactionary to the immediacy of the loss and if they're ultimately going to regret this. Ultimately, you want to bring in a new voice, but is that going to be the right voice? Is that voice going to be able to extract more from your players? Is that voice going to be able to help your players evolve defensively? Because we saw some of those deficiencies pop up again in the playoffs. And this is something that really struck me. Evan, you said that why does this group care about the past? Well, whenever you're part of an organization, if you haven't won in a long time, that pressure compounds. Even if you weren't sitting in that chair a decade ago, you feel the weight of that. You feel the pressure in order to deliver. The Knicks had won just one playoff series this century before Tibbs got there. One playoff series this century. Tibbs led them to at least one series win in each of the past 3 postseason. He brought you success. He brought you a culture. He brought you a singular voice that rallied those players in that locker room. And if you think you can do better than him, go ahead and get that guy. Go for it. But I think they need to really be careful about how they make this next move because you just let a very talented and successful guy walk out the door.
I will say this, Smalls. I know that there are reports that the Knicks are going to do an exhaustive search, but you don't make.
What's your favorite team? Comment below, and if you like the video, please leave a like. This really helps the channel grow and brings you even more content. Oh, and if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button and activate the bell to receive all notifications. With each game, we noticed that the NBA is getting more competitive every day, and all the teams are looking for reinforcements to win the championship. And only here can you follow your favorite team daily with incredible content from different sources. Here on the channel, there are new videos every day with analysis, curiosities, and the best moments in basketball. That's it for today, folks. Thanks for following along. The NBA doesn't stop, and neither do we. Until the next video. NBA, the passion that connects us.